Alrighty then, once again, I'm playing catch up on Blu-ray editions because it's almost the end of December and I still haven't done November Blu-ray editions. And even worse, this is one that I know for a fact will be split into two parts. So aren't I the little procrastinator? So let's get straight on into it. So, starting us off would be Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name Trilogy. So, Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name Trilogy consists of A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Now, technically, these movies aren't really a trilogy. They're more like Edgar Wright's Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, where the three movies weren't made as a trilogy, but there are certain traits that make them seem a trilogy in terms of themes and characters, because both of the trilogies have the same main actors. They have some sort of item that connects all of them. In the Man with No Name trilogy, that item would be Clint Eastwood's iconic outfit with, like, the green poncho. And in the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, it would be Cornetto ice cream. And, but getting back to the Man with No Name trilogy, technically it's not really a trilogy. It's more of three movies made on their own that were then marketed to be a trilogy, but I love this trilogy. I like to think it is, because if it really is, it's my favorite trilogy of all time. It's really good. There's not a weak point in this entire trilogy. All three movies are perfect. So, A Fistful of Dollars, that movie's amazing. I could watch it 1,000 times and never get bored. It's really well done. It's a really clever movie, too. Clint Eastwood, his character is very clever in the actions he takes. And I really love this movie. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. Next up is For a Few Dollars More. That movie is also really good. The main theme for that movie, composed by Ennio Morricone, really spectacular. Really good. Just one of my favorite scores for a movie. But then you get to my all-time favorite score for any movie ever. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's the third movie in this trilogy. Whoa. Best Western ever. It's my favorite Western. It's like my fifth favorite movie. It's really good. I love The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. As I said, the score by Ennio Morricone, on point. Performances by Lee Van Cleef, Clint Eastwood, and Eli Wallach, all fantastic, all working together really well. I love everything about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's the perfect movie, and I think, honestly, everyone should watch it. Next up is Pulp Fiction. I love Pulp Fiction. I have a confession to make. Technically, I haven't seen Pulp Fiction. What I did was, I recorded the movie on TV, and then the recording I got was, like, the most poorly edited TV edit ever, because you took, like, such a raunchy, profane, violent, drug-ridden movie that essentially, this is like the movie that if you show your kid it, people are gonna think, why are you parenting your kid like this? Yeah, that's what Pulp Fiction is. You took one of the most, like, inappropriate movies ever and then condensed it to essentially be rated PG-13 so you could appeal to commercials and to sponsorships. And you ultimately made the movie drastically worse. Because, like, take this for example. Do you remember that scene in Pulp Fiction where, John Travolta's character shoots a guy in the head? And then he's like, oh man, I shot Marvin in the face. Remember that part? Yeah, that's, they kinda cut that out. They have, like, everything after he shoots Marvin, like, everything from, Jules and John Travolta's character Vincent arguing over and until they show up at Jimmy's house, Jimmy played by Quentin Tarantino. They cut everything between there, so I have no idea what happened. But basically, what they did was John Travolta shoots Marvin in the face, and then it cuts to black, and then a guy who sounds nothing like John Travolta says in John Travolta's voice, "Ah, man, I shot Marvin in the face." I really don't like the TV edit, but nevertheless, from what I did see, I will admit it's a really well-written story and some really great performances. And I'm sure the actual version, not the cruddy TV version, I'm sure the actual version is really good. So, next up is The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. I love this movie. I think everything about this movie is incredible. The acting, the action, the cinematography, the directing, all of it on point. This is a really great movie. The one complaint I've seen a lot of people have with this movie is that Tom Cruise plays a Japanese guy, even though he's not Japanese, he's from America. And I would say that complaint would be valid if it were true. He doesn't play a Japanese guy. He plays an American guy who goes to Japan and then works with Japanese people and sides with the Japanese people. And then, yeah, he doesn't play a Japanese guy. I don't get the criticism. I don't get the criticism from that part. It's not true. But the movie. I think this is Tom Cruise's second best performance, second only to Collateral. I love Collateral. But yeah, I think this is one of his best performances, and also from Ken Watanabe, or is it Watanabe? Watanabe? I don't know, man. But yeah, great performances from both of the two. I really liked the performances in this movie, and I really liked the story, which is weird because the story to this movie about an American guy who's sent to kind of, I think, attack a bunch of a Japanese village, I think. Anyway, he's sent to attack a bunch of Japanese people, and then he ends up siding with them, and then fighting back against the people who sent him to attack the Japanese people in the first place. That sounded an awful lot like Dances with Wolves, which was a movie I really hated. I really didn't like Dances with Wolves. And Avatar, which I really didn't like. I didn't like Avatar, sorry. But it wasn't a good movie, guys. It was boring. But yeah, it's very similar to Dances with Wolves and Avatar, but the difference is I liked The Last Samurai. But yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else. I think you should go watch the movie yourself because you'll love this movie. I can promise you'll love The Last Samurai. Go watch it. Go watch it. Just go watch. Come on, man. Go watch it. Go watch it. Yeah, that was me being insane. Anyway, next up is Muppets Most Wanted. I haven't seen this movie. But I liked the 1970s Muppet movie. And I liked the one from, like, the 2012, I think, with Jason Segel and Amy Adams. So yeah, maybe I'll see Muppets Most Wanted. Next up is Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai. So what this movie's about is a guy who's very involved in the mob, played by Forrest Whitaker, named Ghost Dog. And so Ghost Dog is involved with the mob, and then I think eventually the mob wants to go kill him for a job that he did, or that he was hired by the mob to do, and then they want to go kill him. So he's trying to get revenge on these guys. And what I expected was... Oh yeah, also one other thing. Ghost Dog is also learning about the way of the samurai, like how the samurai were taught, the discipline they had. And so he's kind of learning about the way of the samurai while also being in the mob. So what I expected was like this guns blazing, gunplay, action-heavy martial arts movie. It's not that. This movie doesn't have much action. So don't go seeing this expecting what I did. Go see this expecting something like Leon the Professional. You ever see that movie with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman? Like Natalie Portman when she was like 12? It's like that. It's like that. It's very quiet, very contemplative. It's very character-heavy. And so, because of that, you kind of get more time to learn about our main character. And in that way, it's very interesting of a movie. I think Ghost Dog is actually a good movie if you consider it a drama rather than an action movie, because it's not an action movie. But yeah, I think Ghost Dog, worth watching. Next up is Sonic the Hedgehog. Where has Jim Carrey been, man? Remember when he was, like, doing nothing from, like, 2003 until 2020? Or maybe 2019? I don't know. But, like, Jim Carrey's career was so weird. In the 90s, he had, like, great movies. Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, The Truman Show. I can't think of anything else. And then, like, 2003, he made, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and then didn't make anything else, like, you know, comparable to Ace Ventura or Liar Liar. I can definitely guarantee he never made anything comparable to The Truman Show, which was a masterpiece. But like, there was this point in his career where he was just doing whatever. Like, there was a point where he wrote a book about how good of friends he was with Nicolas Cage. Like, he actually wrote a book about being friends with Nicolas Cage. There was that point where he spent most of his life on Twitter just like drawing pictures of him violently murdering political candidates. Then he got, like, he finally went into Sonic the... No, before that. Then he went to doing a bunch of, like, really, really cruddy, straight-to-video movies. And then he went to Sonic the Hedgehog. And I think now that he's on Sonic the Hedgehog and he's gonna be working on the second Sonic the Hedgehog movie, he's gonna be a bit more, like, a bit better in his career. Because I think he was actually pretty good in Sonic the Hedgehog. He was a fun performance. He did good as a villain. He kind of, like, utilized a lot of things that made him funny in, like, Ace Ventura. Like, he was very physical. He did a lot of slapstick. Like, he used every muscle in his body to the best comedic potential it could have. And I think that's why Jim Carrey was good in Sonic the Hedgehog. But other than that, let's talk about the movie itself. The movie was alright. I really don't think there's ever been a good video game movie, or, like, you know, a really good video game movie. There are movies that are like video games or based on fictional video games. Like, for example, Wreck-It Ralph was good. Or, like, movies that are like video games. Edge of Tomorrow was very similar to a video game in the way that, like, you die and then you get further... You die, and then you respawn, and then you come back to life, and then you get further than you did before, you die again, and you keep going until you reach all the way to the finish. That's like a video game. Or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That was a good movie that was very similar to video games, like, to the point of actually referencing a lot of video games in its cinematography, and in its visual effects, and its sound effects. But, honestly, like, any movie based on a video game, you can't say there have been many, like, actually good. There was, like, the Mortal Kombat movie from, like, the 90s that was pretty good. Then they made a sequel to that, which was one of the worst movies ever made. The Lara Croft movies were good in their own way. Like, they were kind of guilty pleasures. But, like, Sonic the Hedgehog, once again, it's an okay movie. It went back to the video game tropes of being alright. Nothing more than alright. Because in some parts, yeah, it's unrealistic, but what do you expect from a movie about a hedgehog who can run fast? But by unrealistic, I mean, like, the things the human characters do are very, like, unconvincing as to what any person would do. And so, yeah, I think Sonic the Hedgehog... Go see it if you want to. I wouldn't, like, recommend it. Although, the greatest thing that happened to this movie was when they spent, like, something like $250,000 of their budget to redesign Sonic, because the original design was just so bad. It was so horrifying. People were memeing about it nonstop. It was a terrible design for a character, and then they redesigned him, and it was way better. That was the best thing that happened to this movie. Next up is Deadpool 2. I liked Deadpool 2. It was a fun movie. It was a funny comedy. I'll have to say I liked it a lot better than the first Deadpool movie. I still liked Deadpool 1. But, like, I feel there were a lot of jokes that had potential in that movie, but instead they just made the punchline the F word, or, like, a really profane sentence. And I think in some situations, saying the F word could be funny, but not when you use it, like, 200 times in a movie, because then the joke just gets pretty stale. As usual, Ryan Reynolds, always great as Deadpool. He's a very witty actor, and also a very handsome lad, if I do say so myself. But yeah, Deadpool 2. I like Deadpool 2. I think it was better than the first one. It was better than the first one, in my opinion. Deadpool 2. Pretty good movie. Okay, so next up is Wreck-It Ralph. I actually liked Wreck-It Ralph. It was a fun movie. We were just talking about it, actually. Wreck-It Ralph, it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it more if Sarah Silverman weren't in it. I don't know, I don't like Sarah Silverman, tell you the truth. I don't know why. I just don't like her. I think her voice is annoying. I'm not one to talk. I have an annoying voice myself. But yeah. I liked Wreck-It Ralph. It was a really good movie. I can't say much about the second one though because I didn't like it actually. But Wreck-It Ralph 1. It was a good movie. I liked it. Next up is Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't get why anyone would see this movie. It's 4 hours long. What are you doing with your time if you watch a 4 hour movie? I mean, like, I'm still at the point where I can't normally watch 3 hour movies. I'm fine with 2.5 hour movies, but, like, it's 3 hour movies that get me. But, like, I know people who watch, like, Titanic, which is, like, 3 hours and 43 minutes long. Or Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is 4 hours long too. Why are people watching a 4 hour and 20 minute movie? Is it 4 hours 20 minutes? It's in minutes. They aren't giving me the hours. I'm not doing that math. But like, yeah, I'm still astonished that people watch like Gone with the Wind more than once because it's 4 hours long. Of course though, there are movies that are longer. I have a friend. One of his favorite movies is 7.5 hours long. Why do you sit down and watch that? What gives you enjoyment out of watching long movies, dude? But yeah, I got this mostly because I'm planning on watching all the DC EU movies. You know, all those ones with Ben Affleck playing a really cruddy Batman and Henry Cavill playing a pretty okay Superman and Ezra Miller playing a pretty okay Flash. And Gal Gadot actually playing a pretty decent Wonder Woman. Yeah, everyone in the entire DCEU plays pretty decent characters. Like, Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman are probably, like, the better performances out of all the DCEU. But, like, oh yeah, and Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn. But yeah, other than that, you just have a bunch of okay performances. Other than like Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, I hear it's good. I hear they have good performances. But yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League. You give a man a bunch of hashtags and billions of dollars, and he makes a 4.5 hour movie. Hollywood. Next up is Kingsman. Kingsman 1 and 2. Now, Kingsman 1, The Secret Service, was good. It was a really good action movie and a really entertaining movie with some great fight scenes. Like, 2 in particular. There was one in a bar, which was really good, and there was a fight scene in a church, which, in my opinion, was the best fight scene in a movie. It was really good. Really, 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 really good. I love that church fight scene. It was awesome. And then Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle, I probably will never, ever watch because I hear it's terrible. So I probably won't watch it anytime soon. But yeah, I do like Kingsman: The Secret Service. That was a good movie. Next up is The Life Aquatic with Reflections and Lights. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I like this movie a lot. This is like Wes Anderson's most hated movie. I don't get why. I really liked Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I thought it was the most emotional one by far. It was very tragic. The cinematography and set design was on point as usual. I think this is one of Wes Anderson's best movies, in my opinion. Like, Bill Murray as Steve Zissou, best performance from one of Wes Anderson's best and most well-written characters. And Owen Wilson as Ned Plimpton in this movie, also really good, really good. I could talk about The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou for a long time. I think I might do a review on it eventually, because I have a lot to say on this movie. And yeah, I think it's a very overhated movie for Wes Anderson's filmography, because, as you know, I myself love Wes Anderson. He's my favorite director. But yeah, I eventually want to review The Life Aquatic. Next up is Citizen Kane. Greatest movie of all time, as people have said. Yeah, Citizen Kane's great. I understand the hype, and yeah, it lived up to that hype. Citizen Kane, I understand why people call it the greatest movie of all time. It's really well made. It's very revolutionary in its cinematography. Orson Welles obviously put a lot of heart into directing this movie and a lot of time and effort and a lot of thought, and it turned out to be a really good movie. So yeah, I love Citizen Kane. Next up is American Graffiti. Haven't seen it, but I probably will because I wanted to see this movie. I really want to see American Graffiti. I like George Lucas, so eventually I'll see it. And finally is A Quiet Place Part 2. Honestly, I think this is like one of the only horror movie sequels that are as good as the original. Like, technically Aliens, but really Aliens is more of like an action movie than a horror movie. A Quiet Place, full-on horror. It was really good. It lived up to the original. I think A Quiet Place Part 2 was better than the original, in my opinion, because it, usually with these horror movie sequels, they focus more on the monster than the human characters themselves, like the survivors. That's what they do a lot because they realize that the monster or the creature or the murderer themselves are the main marketable part of the movie. And yeah, but in A Quiet Place, we barely saw the monsters, and so they understand that this isn't really like, trying to market things or make things commercial. It's making a horror movie about human characters in a situation, and they feel very real. And so with A Quiet Place Part 2, they continued to focus on the same human characters from the first movie and introduce Cillian Murphy, who did really good in this movie, by the way. And I think A Quiet Place Part 2, by far, not only one of the best sequels, in my opinion, but I also think it's probably one of the best movies of 2021, of the entire year. I really liked A Quiet Place Part 2. Since this video is split into two parts, I have a part 2 of this video that I want to make maybe tomorrow. But there are so many good movies I got this month that I kind of have to just do Blu-ray of the month for this part and then Blu-ray of the month for the next part because I like a lot of these movies. A lot of these are really, really good. So for Blu-ray of half of the month, we got in 5th place a tie between A Quiet Place Part 2 and The Last Samurai. I love both of these movies, and I really can't decide which I like more. So, yeah. At 4th place is Citizen Kane. I really, really, really like this movie. It seems almost obligatory. It's been hailed as the greatest movie of all time. You gotta put it on there. I really actually do like Citizen Kane. So at 3rd place is Pulp Fiction. Although I haven't seen the real version, I've seen the TV edited one, and while they did a really terrible job, I still really enjoyed it. And yeah, I think Pulp Fiction's a good movie from what I've seen. At 2nd place, I'm gonna get hate for this, but The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, higher than Citizen Kane and Pulp Fiction. Somebody's gonna be getting death threats later. I'm kidding. I hope I don't get death threats. No one's too evil to threaten me. But yeah, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I like this movie a lot. I think it's one of Wes Anderson's best movies. I think he did a really good job directing it. Yeah, it's a really good movie. And at 1st place is, drumroll please, The Man with No Name trilogy. Namely, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Namely, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's what won. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's what won. I love The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I love the cinematography, the score, the set design, performances, the story. I don't know what else. I really do love this movie. I think The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is just the perfect movie. It is a perfect movie. Thank you very much for watching part 1 of November Blu-ray editions. I hope to get part 2 out either tomorrow or Thursday. Yeah, thanks for putting up with that. Not only am I behind, but I also have to split this video into 2 parts. Oh boy. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Before you leave, why don't you tell me what your favorite of all these movies were? Mine was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. After you do that, you can head on out. Stay safe and watch good movies. Bye!